reinforced in our workshops. Yeah, even when we critique each other, right? Generally speaking, MFAs are critiquing each other from a kind of unified perspective, from the perspective of people who have been trained in workshops, yeah, who have created in workshops, yeah, who have learned the workshop ethos, right? And it doesn't work, yeah. In the world, it doesn't work. It doesn't, people stop right. And what you've been doing here, right, this sort of collective mind that you felt, yeah? And I saw it demonstrated, and I heard people talking about it, right? There is the writer's mind over here, right, which is laughing, and I mean, these four people, and it would have been the same if there had been four others on this side of the room, they became tricksters.
Became.
What's that?
Became.
Well, yes. No. But I mean, you took the role of trickster, right? You took the role of, oh, I'm gonna really screw them up. And when one of the characters, one of this beloved cast of characters, was wounded, you went after that character, right? You decided, oh, we're gonna hunt that wounded creature down and kill it, right? And this side, yeah, they very quickly coalesced, yeah, and took each other's part and found sympathies and affections, right? I mean, Toby kept pointing out, well, you know, you've only known these people like 3 minutes, right? I mean, it's sort of like, Han Solo and Obi-Wan Kenobi, yeah? Like, they knew each other for a matter of hours, and Obi-Wan and Han Solo named his child after this old man who was a passenger in his ship for, you know, a matter of hours, right? But you all forged relationship very quickly, yeah? And it was relationship that excluded these tricksters, yeah? So we had the id, yes, we had the ego, and I'm not, by the way, a Freudian, except in terms of being able to easily describe elements of a divided personality, right? And then we had, right, so we had id, we had ego, and we had superego, which had to go from side to side, right, to try to say, would come over here and go, what are you all doing? What are you doing? And then we'd come over here and go, why did all this new stuff suddenly show up? What do you mean this room is full of zombies? Why are there Roombas everywhere suddenly? Right? And sort of had to try to move between these worlds, and without controlling, right, had to move the story forward. Yeah, I had to say, okay, here's the next step. Yes, you, forces of chaos, right, I'm going to allow a certain amount of chaos. You, forces of order, I'm going to allow a certain amount of order. And what you felt, right, the frustration, and I could tell there's frustration, right, like now it's personal, you said, yeah, right?
Yeah, because I spent my turn, instead of attacking someone, I spent my turn healing someone, and I really felt bad because I wanted to heal her, and then like the turn, and I wanted to actually kill the robot and then heal her on the next go, and then I finally do it. I use my one healing thing, like my one healing injection, and then they come around with this Roomba and like attack this like person who didn't do anything bad to the Roomba, like personally. And so, yeah, it's personal. Like, on the next one, I'm going to fuck him up. Like,
but mathematically, if you don't heal her, the Roomba does kill her. Like,
yeah,
it didn't do enough damage. You
like,
saved her.
I would be a bad diplomat if I just like, let people die.
It's hard to negotiate when everybody's dead.
Yeah, it's like, that's the worst diplomatic situation.
Okay, so these are, but you felt a like personal affront. Right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay? But think of what that means, right? You had never heard of this character a few hours ago. You'd never heard of any of these people, right? And you are actually angry, and I think, right, I mean, it's good that you are. You're like affronted that someone you'd never met before didn't get to heal someone else you never met before, and that person was being pursued by literally a Roomba, right? It's an absurd set of circumstances that become very real because all of these different personalities, parts of personality, not a unified being, right, created these things. And what you want to be as a writer is everyone at this table, okay? What you tend to be as writers is the DM, right? But you tend to be, you say, oh, well, all that crazy stuff you want to do, that's really funny to think about, but don't really do that, right? Like, no, I'll do something normal. I'll do something that, people will approve of, yeah? And and on this side, right, you say, well, I'm not going to hurt this person. I'm not going to, I'm not going to feel things. But you want all of this. Everything you felt when you felt satisfaction because something you wanted to happen happened, when you felt frustration because something you wanted to happen didn't happen, whenever you felt, oh, we set up this situation and they fucked it up by deciding to fight instead of talking to the Roomba people or whatever, right? Whatever you felt, yeah? And the going back and forth, the negotiating, how do I move this story forward? How do I go between id and ego to make something interesting, right? That's the same negotiation you have to be having in yourself all the time, right? You don't struggle with yourselves enough, generally speaking, in your fiction, yeah? You don't defy yourselves. You imagine that you can come up with something as a unitary person, yeah? And we have this pretense, right? And it is, I suppose, a societal pretense. I don't know enough, I will leave it to folks who know more about psychology than I do, but we have this notion that we are unitary beings, right? Has anybody ever had intrusive thoughts? Any of you ever had intrusive thoughts?
Yes.
Of course. We're made of intrusive thoughts, right?
Everyone on the side of the table, he's established
Yeah,
himself.
right.
Right now I'm like, what if I poured Gatorade?
Exactly. Those intrusive thoughts, right? We have, do you do the things that you want to do? Do you, right, when you tell yourself, well, it would be better if I didn't drink that fifth of vodka tonight, right? Are you able to stay away from the vodka? Yeah? No. I mean, sometimes probably, but you can't just command yourself. Well, you can't just command, this side of the table can't just command that side of the table. This side of the table can't just command that side of the table. And the person at the end of the table, who you would think was actually in control of the whole thing, had the least control of anybody in the room, right? Now, he did a really good job, I think, of balancing the interests of these non-unitary groups, and the writers disagreed about what to do. They had different ideas. You all didn't all do the things that you wish other people had done, right? But that's, if you look at that, this is a perfect model of what the inside of a writer's head should look like, right? You should have that part that says, let's go berserk. Let's, have all of the terrible things happen, yeah? And it has to be, there has to be that ruthlessness, right? Because one of the problems with sensitive writers is you won't do the things you need to do to your characters. Your dramas are less powerful than they should be because you're being generous to your characters, right? And that sort of gleeful ruthlessness, Let's destroy them, right? Let's put something around the corner from them that they won't survive. Yeah? You wouldn't do that to yourself. You wouldn't do that to your own character, right? So you need them to do it for you. They need you to try to struggle and survive and be frustrated and try to overcome and be ingenious in ways that they never thought of, right? And then you need the part of you that brings those things together so that it doesn't just look like madness and chaos. Yeah? So be like this room. Now, what I just told you is true, yes, but it is also, if you ever are called on to teach a class, to demonstrate, right, what your teaching philosophy is, yes, or if you're ever called upon, as you will be, to write about your teaching philosophy, if you described this class or made this class happen and explained it in the way I just explained it, right, that these are all parts of the writer's brain, that will get you the job, okay? Nobody wants you to go to their institution and just teach yet another workshop in which, you know, everybody pretends that they, you know, read dutifully, right? Recognizing, yeah, that first of all, it was hugely entertaining. Like, I would rather watch the stream of what you all did this evening or be an observer. Like, this was better than any literary reading I've ever been to, right? You have never been, I mean, maybe you've been to different sorts of readings from what I've been to. You have never been to a reading where there was this much laughter, this much interaction, this much scheming, this much enmity, right? Think about, have you ever been to a reading where you were actually like emotionally, like felt emotionally traduced by what the writer did? You know what I mean? Felt like the writer, you know, was like personally offended, you know, made you personally offended on behalf of one of the characters, right? That's profound. Like, the emotional investment in the characters is profound. Yeah, and it was fascinating to watch. This was a great spectator sport. Like, and I want to think how we capitalize on that, right? Like, how do you take a form like this, right? And I'd be very interested to hear from you all, right? Like, how do we make this into, or is it already? Like, is this sufficient? How do we make this a pedagogical model, right? Because to my mind, as an experienced writer, as a really experienced reader who yearns for entertaining work by intelligent people, right? This was remarkable, right? Like, I would happily partake of something like this on a regular basis, yeah? And so how does this end up working as a workshop? Yeah, or something like that, something like this, something where, because most workshops, and you probably know this and you probably know which of these people you are, most workshops, fiction workshops, turn into like 3 people who talk all the time and a whole bunch of people who kind of sit back around the corners of the room and join in when called on, right? But who are generally kind of reluctant to join in because the conversation is toxic, right? And who don't really, you know, who feel left out, right? And there wasn't any of that, right? Even for those of you, right, the person least familiar with role-playing games created the most interesting and lovable character, right? That is, you know, Catherine creates dirt. And everybody immediately goes, holy shit, Dirt is the hero of this story. Like, right? And Catherine plays Dirt like the hero of this story. Dirt's not worried about that, right? There's no immediate danger, so Dirt is perfectly calm. right? And anytime Dirt did anything, the whole room would go, Dirt! Right? And what do we know about Dirt? Dirt is just sort of a mean giant who we learned, right? What was the last line, Catherine, of your description of Dirt?
I didn't like killing people all that much.
Right, exactly. Like, he doesn't like killing people all that much, yeah? That's not exactly, I mean, that's like the perfect anti-hero, yes? And so you see, right, like, I don't know, I mean, that's a big lesson, yeah? Is that it's not, the person with the most experience in, participatory fiction, yeah, or collaborative fiction immediately, like, does the best, right? It's just, like, what's a great character? Dirt is a great character. I will never forget the character of Dirt, right? Because it's a great character, right? The name, how did you decide, Catherine, on the name Dirt?
Well, this is going to sound weird, but I'm pretty sure I got it. I was thinking, what should I name? I have a names file in my computer, and I think it was in there, or some variation of it, yeah.
Okay, so it's a name, you kind of been looking for the character.
I've had a bunch of names. I mean, yeah, it's cool that I don't normally pick out big, lump guys.
Right.
But yeah, I guess maybe in the back of my mind, I have names.
Yeah, Dirt was perfect. It's it's one syllable. It's my guess is if we looked it up, it had comes out of Anglo-Saxon roots, right? It's one of those one syllable, fuck, shit, dirt, right? Like when you need that, when you say big galumphing guy, when you need that imprimatur of like Anglo-Saxon violence, we call on those words, right? Yeah. When you break your toe, you fuck, shit, right? Yeah. No, I mean that's really smart. That's how Tolkien named his characters. Yeah. So I want you to think about this as a model, right? A model not of your trying to. I want you to feel free to disagree with yourself and to indulge various aspects of your personality. And the last part of your personality that I want you to indulge, and those of you who are able to do this enjoyed this experience more than those of you who aren't, I want you to make the intellectual the last part that you engage, right? Because you're plenty intellectual, I promise you, yeah? But the thing you really need to become good at is like having a good time, yes? Is just thinking, wow, this is a great game. And it needs to be as much fun for you to write as it was for you to sit around with all these people. Because you can have all these people in your brain, right? All these people with all their various personalities. What's that?
Rent free, baby.
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's kind of delightful, right? That thing that in our culture we fight against all the time, right? Like, be normal. Don't think those weird thoughts. Don't exaggerate. Don't lie. Don't try to be the center of attention, right? I mean, everything that, I'm betting Graham, right? I'm betting, right? You were told, like, don't try to be the center of attention.
All the time from my
Exactly,
parents.
right? How many
Real
of you were
constant.
told that as children or when you're in adult relationships? Have people told you, like, don't, when we go there tonight, why don't you not do that thing you always do? Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I'm a black void inside and I need attention. That's what I live on.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's exactly who you should be, right? I mean, it's one of the people that you should be, yes? But that all of that sort of disapproval, yes, that judgment, how serious is this? How, right? Let that go and just be all sides of this table all the time. And you can do that in your teaching life too, right? Like we imagine we have to be these unitary beings when we come into our teaching selves, yes? And that we have to, we have to embody art for our students. Well, first of all, they don't care, right? They don't care they do not know your name, by the way. I don't know if you know that or not, but your students don't know your name. I will ask them when they come into my class, oh, who'd you have 101 with? Who'd you have 119 with? I don't know. Yes.
They know my name.
Yes, no, I believe that. I believe that. And some of you, they do know your name. Yes. That was too blanket a statement. But they're not, right? You don't have to be some unitary being for them. You're not forming, in the smithy of your soul, the uncreated conscience of your race, right? You're just a person, right? As you are as a writer. And it's those notions, those peculiar notions of what we ought to be and the things people tell us that they are. Like when we go to readings, we say, what are your practices? How do you write, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and they give us the answer that they were taught by the person who lied to them about it, and they lied to you about it. Yeah, but this was a great experience of watching all the different parts of one mind work. Yeah, and create something instantly. Right? You all created this on the fly. And you created it in part out of enmity, right? That's amazing. Yeah? That's an astonishing act of creation. That a room full of people who were in many ways opposed to each other actually created something interesting and funny that had a very distinct personality. Okay? All right, so Toby, I will leave it to you. I'm actually kind of done. Like, this is really hot. I really hate being in a hot room. I didn't dress for it. So I will leave it to you if you want to stay, want to play longer. Now, I understood you thought we were doing, what did you think we were doing tonight?
Like regular story time?
I thought so too. I had something ready, but I'll just have it ready.
No, we're doing a week from tonight. We're gonna do podcasts, right?
What?
That's for our other classes.
Yeah, I get confused because it has some of the same people. Okay, well, let's we'll do story time next week. But I'm not in a room like this. I'm not gonna try to set up a streaming
I don't want to put on the sweaty mask in like
facility. Yeah, no, it's just, this is just stupid. Like it is dumb to imagine that the rest of the university doesn't have to do its job, but we do. Like we have to, no matter what the situation is, we just have to put up with an untenable situation.
Classrooms in Fader are so hot that like my students check out like while I'm teaching because it's so hot inside, and I don't blame them for that.
No,
I
and
would check out
don't blame
too.
your students,
No,
right?
I
Like
don't.
it is, your students, I'll guarantee you, your students are fine people, right? Like I like our undergraduates very, very much. And my colleagues really do blame them for a lot of things, but they are not to blame. Yeah, I mean the fact that students check out of like boring, uncomfortable stuff just means they're normal, right? Like, but it does. Like, why should we be like, well, it's really hot in here, but that's just a test of my character. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's not. It doesn't prove anything about your character that you're willing, like as an artist, the willingness to like put up with boring stuff, that's hugely injurious. Like that's the opposite of what we should do. Yeah? I think it's a testament to Toby that it was so entertaining in the early part of the class that we did sit through this shit. And I think we should all give Toby a big round of applause. Yeah. So, but I declare the class is over. You all may play, not play. You can, you know. But I'm sorry if I did not make it clear this was all we were doing this week.
Maybe I didn't hear it.
Yeah, maybe I thought it was the other class. Like I get very confused.